This week in Loudoun County, we saw some new stuff that was coming out just about what was going on with the young man who identified as a woman by putting on a skirt and walking into girls' bathrooms. He reportedly, or actually was convicted of raping two of his classmates who were about 15 years old. And he was convicted of that, and everyone was like, oh, thank God, like that's really good. We wanted that to happen. And then the news came out late last night that the judge in Loudoun County decided that because he was 15 and because the prosecution didn't explicitly file to have him labeled as oh my gosh, what's it called? A sex offender, that was just not going to go on his record. So yeah, apparently you're old enough to rape two young girls, but not old enough to be put on the sex offenders registry, which is just insane. And it's really, really stupid when you consider that the judge in the case herself called his psychological evaluation scary. She said, "It scared me. I'm scared for you. It scared me for society." So apparently when a sitting court judge who deals with criminals every day can look at this kid's psych eval and go, that's terrifying, that's scary, apparently that's not enough to put them on a sex offenders registry. And I was actually kind of interested as to what actually goes into a psych eval because, I mean, everyone can talk to any other person and kind of go, oh, that person seems a little off their rocker. But I was actually just looking to see what actually takes place during a psych eval. And this is what I found. So they look at your mental health history. They'll ask you about any symptoms you had, what your personal family history is, like if your family's had any other mental health issues, any psychiatric treatments you've had. They look at your personal history. Have you been arrested? Are you married? What sort of work do you do? And then they do a more mental evaluation, looking at your thoughts, your feelings, day-to-day life. Are you irritable? Are you shy? Are you aggressive? And this is all from WebMed. So they go through the entire thing, and then they actually go and do a cognitive evaluation, and they look at your reasoning, whether or not you have a strong memory, and things like that. So they don't actually list out the questions from what I'm seeing, but I do think it's really, really concerning that a sitting judge can look at the written analysis from psychologists and go, this is really scary, and I'm worried for society. So I just think that is completely ridiculous, especially in the era of coming out of Me Too and all of these movements and stuff with progressivism. But I just think it's a really, really interesting thing because the left has always tried to be a champion of women with the Me Too movement and feminism. But now you see again where these two young girls and their families, they said they were heartbroken over the news today. Then you see these things with trans swimmers and them taking women's sports. So what do you think, just with all of this going on? Do you think that the technicality should have allowed this young man to not be put on this list?
I don't, and that's exactly what the father of the first victim was saying. So this kid actually, he was accused of sexual assault at one school, transferred to another school, and then accused of sexual assault at that school.
Yeah.
The first school is the one where he was wearing a skirt and went into the women's bathroom. And like you said, he's been convicted of sexual assault, but he's not going to go on the sex offender registry list. And the reason is, as you mentioned, because the prosecution didn't file a motion saying that they wanted him to go on the sex offender registry. So the judge actually initially called for him to go on the sex offender registry. Then the defense team said, well, wait a second, you can't do that because they didn't file a motion asking you to do that. And apparently that's technically true. So the judge was forced to say he doesn't go on the sex offender registry. So he basically is getting off because of a technicality. And the Daily Mail actually spoke to the father of the first victim. And he said, I don't have the exact quote, but this is ridiculous. I can't believe it's a technicality. Yeah. And now, women are going to have to be scared. Their parents are going to have to be scared for their kids because this guy could be roaming around and you won't know where he is because he doesn't have to register.
Teen girls will be scared.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I thought this was the judge's call. I didn't realize that this was the prosecution that botched this.
Yeah.
That is remarkable. Man, and there's so many issues with prosecutors in America right now. We've got federal prosecutors, U.S. attorneys who are dropping charges against BLM rioters and Antifa people left and right. We've got prosecutors who are not filing charges when they need to file charges that would land people in jail and keep them off the streets. And then we've got those people turning around and robbing, raping, or even murdering other people. We've got liberal politicians who are passing cash bail laws that allow people to get, it basically turns jail into a revolving door. And then you've got prosecutors who, presumably these guys, wanted to do the right thing, but they somehow failed to file the paperwork. How do you explain that to the public that elects you?
Yeah, exactly.